Hey, here we are, Sports Bit Betting Insight today, Paulie and Teddy Monday, August 21st. Monday Night Football, Giants and the Browns, part of the big game breakdown. Also, who knew? A huge series tonight, Texas and the Angels deep dive. Handicapper Marc Lawrence, part one. Teddy caught up with him at the betting seminar in Costa Rica. We'll get to that as well. Look for Ed Grainy later in the week as it's fight week with Mayweather and McGregor. Loaded show coming up in a big week as we have college football Saturday that starts and the fight and the dress rehearsal for the preseason. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. From the same game, the total and the Blue Jays a bad beat. The under was 9. It fell 11 in 10 innings. The Blue Jays led 5-3 in the bottom of the 10th. Schwarber and Baez struck out but reached on wild pitches. There was a hit batter. This was banana. Osuna blows it. The Cubs get a huge win and sweep the Blue Jays, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, this is a brutal beat if you had the under. All right. It's 3-3 after 9. You had the right side. Okay. Toronto scores 2 in the top of the 10th. You're fine. All good. But when the inning starts in the bottom of the 10th, first 4 batters go strikeout, single, ground out, strikeout, that inning's supposed to be over. And instead, the Cubs scored 3 runs in the process. Brutal beat for total bettors if you had that one under, and not exactly an enjoyable one if you had the Toronto Blue Jays. As you mentioned, 2 batters got to first base after striking out on wild pitches.
All right, I will say this is a bad beat. I would bet it again if I had the opportunity. No Landry Jones. Also, the Steelers didn't play anybody, and Tomlin hasn't cared in 4 years about the preseason. Falcons open +2, went off a 3-point favorite. They led 13-3, and they didn't do anything the rest of the game on offense, and the Steelers returned a punt for a touchdown.
Yeah, that's a 5-point line move towards Atlanta, and the books got to keep all of that money. Look, I mean, the Falcons' offense completely died after the starters left, and we've talked about it a number of times on SportsBit. You want to lay points in the preseason? That's fine. You need a bet on and a bet against. Everyone wanted to bet against Pittsburgh. There wasn't a whole lot of bet on for Atlanta in that ball game, and Falcons bettors paid the price. After all that money came in on Atlanta, the books got to keep it all.
Tennessee took money at home Saturday afternoon against Carolina. Tennessee bet up to 4. This was a wild game as the Titans got off to a 17-0 lead early.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not going to call it a bad beat. This was a tough beat if you had Carolina, though. I mean, 17-0 Titans lead early. That was all two Derek Anderson turnovers. Deep in Carolina's, or deep in their own territory, I should say, led to 2 really cheap touchdowns of, one-play drives. And then Carolina rallied back. Joe Webb was making plays just like he did last week. They tied the game at 27. They got the ball back with just under 2 minutes to play. And then what happens? First play, sack fumble. Titans get it at the 3, punch in the touchdown to win by 7. That was their 3rd touchdown of the game of drives that started inside the Panthers 20. Tough beat for Carolina backers. Tennessee gets the money, and that was a bad result for the books as well, as you talked about all that money coming in on Tennessee in the hours before kickoff.
There's another one. Not an ideal result for the books either. The Colts score late. They lose 24-19. They get inside the number. It falls 5. Dallas was laying 5.5, 6.
Exactly, and there were a lot of 5s at the close. So there were a number of books, both here in Vegas and offshore, that ended up refunding all the a whole bunch of wagers and losing basically everything else. But I mean, Dallas was in control of this game. There was a 31-14 first down edge. Stephen Morris leads a short TD drives inside the final 2 minutes. Stephen Morris, how many TD drives is he going to lead in the regular season, Paulie? I'll take the under, but he led 1 here. How about this? Very, very rare. The first 2 weeks of preseason, the straight-up winner, now 30-1 against the spread, or 30-0-1, depending on how you choose to grade this game. But the only one was this game right here, where Indy come through the back door to get the money against Dallas.
All right, how about some bad bets? 49ers at home, open pick'em, bet up to 3, blown out against the Broncos, 33-14. Looks like Simeon's going to win the job. Lynch started, but only threw for 39 yards. Simeon went 8 of 11 for 93 yards and a touchdown. Broncos blow him out.
Yeah, I mean, Paxton Lynch wasn't pretty, and Paxton Lynch hasn't shown me anything as an NFL starter yet that tells me he's better than Trevor Siemian. So I'm confident the Broncos brass is seeing what we're seeing, but this was a ton of money on San Fran, a good 3-point line move. And you can understand the market thought, They wanted to back a first-year coach to win in front of the home fans. But, man, when you looked at the starters versus starters in this game, it was a completely one-sided affair. It was 20-0 at halftime. San Fran never in the game. All the 49ers money, that was bad bets.
All right, here bad for the books. Chiefs opened +1, went off the favorite -2.5. Why all that Kansas City money? Certainly the right side as they blow out the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty clear from before the game that KC was taking this game much more seriously than Cincinnati was. And of course, they had a real rarity. Touchdown passes from 3 different quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, couple of TDs, and he also ran 3 times for 29 yards. Mahomes might be developing into one of these preseason quarterbacks we got to pay attention to with that dual threat capability.
And the Bears +3. They open up 3-point dog, close pick 'em, and they get the win against Arizona as they hold off a 2-point conversion try in the final seconds.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, sportsbooks lost on the move with a 3-point move towards Chicago in this ballgame. But it probably would have been worse if Arizona had made that 2-point conversion to win 25-24. A lot of the shops would have gotten middled and paying off bets on both sides if that was the case. Bruce Arians, all of a sudden, he started to develop into a I don't really give a shit coach in August. Pay attention to that track record moving forward. Arians has not been good of late. The markets knew it, and this was a bad result for the house.
And one more. I mean, somebody knew something here about Snell. This didn't make any sense. The Rays have been playing terrible baseball. A 45-cent move on Snell at home against the Mariners, and they shut him out 3-0.
Yeah, and I mean, Snell has thrown well back-to-back now. Somebody knows something because the bettors backed him last time, and they were talking about a huge move on Tampa yesterday, 45-cent move towards the Rays against Seattle. We're talking about a guy that opened 0-6 with a 4.69 ERA. Well, yesterday, twice as many strikeouts as hits and walks allowed over 8 dominant shutout innings. Keep your eye on Blake Snell moving forward.
Up next, big game breakdown. Monday Night Football, the Giants and the Browns, and then we'll get to the Rangers and the Angels, plus Marc Lawrence with the deep dive on Sportsbet. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on Sportsbet, Betting Insight today, Paulie and Teddy. Time for big game breakdown. As always, sponsored and powered by Bet Online. And it's time running out here as the fight is Saturday, and Bet Online wants to pay for your pay-per-view, $100 value. Register through Saturday. Just simply retweet this message to enter. You must have a Bet Online account to qualify. Mayweather McGregor Saturday night, $100 value. Simply retweet to enter. And exceptional customer service, strong promotions, any type of wager that you're looking for out there. Bet Online. Monday Night Football, Giants and the Browns on ESPN. Giants on the road, 139 the total at Bet Online. Giants go from 6-10 and 6-10 to 11-5 in their first season under McAdoo. But not an offensive genius as people want to make them out to be, because all that money they spent on the defense, it worked. Look at this, Football Outsiders efficiency ratings. Defense, they were 31st in 2015. Last year, they were second. Look at the offense, 16 to 22nd. They improved in the standings big time, but the offense took a step back, Teddy.
It sure did, Paul. And we're talking about McAdoo as being an offensive guy. You know, he's known. He got the job as the Giants offense coordinator. And yet the offense got worse, and the defense made the single biggest jump in NFL history from one year to the next. Now, for the purposes of tonight's game, Giants are going to play Eli in the first-string offense into the second quarter. They're looking for Eli to develop a little bit of chemistry with the new wide receiver, some guy named Brandon Marshall, and, of course, the tight ends, Evan Ingram and Rhett Ellison. But we have to ask, can this offense develop a passing game with a running back core that really might be the single weakest group of running backs in the entire NFL? And I know I'm a guy that doesn't worry too much one back to the next, but the Giants' backfield is a little bit devoid of talent right now. Eli Manning, quote, "We have always talked about as a quarterback, you've got to be a great receivers coach. That's part of the job. You have to be able to coach up your receivers and talk to them about giving their sticks and giving them depth. You have to tell them exactly how you want them to do it and be on the same page as them." So Eli certainly looking to develop that with his receiving core tonight. But once he leaves the game, remember, Backup Geno Smith, he was not good last week against the Steelers. That's the only reason the Steelers are 2-0 in the preseason is how bad Geno was. Third stringer Josh Johnson, he's got the legs and can scramble. We like QBs like Johnson in the preseason. Fourth string quarterback Davis Webb, he got extended playing time last week. Not really sure how much time we're going to see him on the field for Monday Night Football tonight.
And, well, that's a big deal, too, because Geno and Johnson, the winners is the backup. The loser's probably cut. Now, the Browns, who knows what they're going to do. Osweiler will start again. Kaiser will be the number 2, followed by Kessler, who's been downgraded to number 3. Hugh Jackson, quote, I still think that right now where we are, Brock deserves the opportunity to walk out there first. And I think seeing Kaiser, again, last week it was the second half. I want to see him now in the first half and see what he can do there. I'll give him an opportunity to showcase his talent and ability, end quote. They got the win late as Kaiser lit it up in the second half, the 48-yard touchdown pass on fourth down with 1:52 left. Osweiler was terrible. It was more dink and dunk and throwing 4-yard passes. So we'll see if Kaiser's able to win that job here in this one.
Yeah, look, most of the very bad teams in week 1 of the preseason, they won. Jets, Browns, 49ers, Rams, Jaguars. The worst teams in the NFL in August, especially early in August, they tend to be bet-on teams. Well, that didn't happen in week 2. Those teams combined 1-3 ATS with the Browns pending, obviously. And with the QB situation in Cleveland, you can understand all these guys have to get looks. They have to get opportunities in order to determine who's going to win the job. That's more important than anything within the month of August. But you can expect the fact that A, they're going to have a little bit better running game, and B, it's the second year of this offense. That's going to help. Here's a quote from Joe Thomas. Having another year in Hugh's system will help with the details because the run game is difficult. You have to have everybody that's a blocker do the right thing at the same time, and nobody can get beat. Otherwise, it's definitely a last play of 0 or 1 yard unless your running back makes some unbelievable play. In order to get 6 or 7 NFL players to defeat their man on any one play at the exact same time, the odds are sometimes slim. So Thomas indicating Cleveland's going to spend a fair bit of time working on their run game as well as developing those QBs tonight.
Do you have a lean?
No, I really don't. I'm not involved. Not side, not total.
Okay, I got game number 2, powered and sponsored by Bet Online. Rangers and the Angels from Anaheim. It's Hamels against Skaggs. Angels are $1.44, 8.5 the total. Some early money coming in on the under. Look at the wild card picture. Yankees are the number 1 wild card. Twins 69-53. They're the Angels 64-60. Didn't fall back even though Trout missed all those games. And then it's just a mess after that. LA comes in after this huge road trip where they went 7-2 at Seattle, at Washington, and Baltimore. Now, the last 10 games, their starters, look at these names. Scribner, Skaggs, Nolasco. I can't believe they're running Nolasco out there every 5 days. He's bottom 5 in ROI for pitchers. But Bridwell, number 2 in all of baseball ROI. You're up 14 units betting on this guy, only behind Kershaw, Nolasco, Ramirez. This is not a good rotation, but you don't have to be that good to be in the race in the American League. Only 53 innings pitched from the starters across those games, but they went 8-2, Ted.
What LA's doing is defying market expectations when it comes to starting pitchers. And this is one of the reasons why we talked a lot about sports, but in terms of my personal philosophy, I'm not generally a starting pitching guy. I like to ride teams when the starting pitching isn't doing anything. And LA starting pitching hasn't done anything. They kept them in games, but they're number 28 out of 30 MLB teams in inning per start since the All-Star break. Yet they're 19-13 during that span. They're making money. There hasn't been any price to lay with the Angels with these starters. Now, one concern, of course, is that Skaggs, who's going tonight, he's not showing any magic. 12-18, 4.45 ERA, over 275 innings pitched. He may not have the upside. Remember, this guy was number 8 overall in the first round of the 2009 draft. They thought maybe he would be a top of the rotation guy. Doesn't look like he's going to be that guy, but if they can certainly get 5 or 6 average innings out of him, that's a plus for LA moving forward, considering most of their starting pitchers are struggling to make it out of the 5th.
Amazing but true department. And from baseball karma, last year the Rangers went 95-67, and they were outscored on the season. This year, they're plus 35 in run differential, yet they're a game under 500, because last year they had the best record in one-run games in MLB history. They traded Darvish, they traded Lucroy. They didn't think they'd be in contention, but they're 11-7 in August. They're a lot like the Twins, that they became sellers but they're in this damn thing, and now they look bad. Hamill's 8-1, but the Rangers only 9-6 across his 15 starts. You got to win against Detroit despite having more walks than strikeouts. It also gave up 2 home runs over 6 innings pitched. They put the Rangers in holes of 2-0 and 4-2, but they rallied. Hamill's after the start, quote, "It's a tough game. When you go out there and put the team behind early and the team's able to get you a few runs, you want to go out there and try to put up zeros as fast as possible to maintain that momentum." It's strange, Ted. I mean, these teams aren't good, but someone has to make the playoffs. And as I just mentioned, it looks like the Rays are done and the Orioles are up against it too. But with Texas and Minnesota, it's got to be, you have to be furious. The Twins traded their all-star closer, and they're right there. And then Texas moved guys, and they're right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the irony, is that you trade away Darvish, you trade away LaCroix, you say, all right, we're building for the future, and then your team gets hot, and you go 11-7 in August, and you're right in the thick of the race. But let's be real about what this wild card race in the American League is. And I don't blame Texas for trying to get something back for Yu Darvish, who probably wasn't going to be there a year from now, or something back from Jonathan LaCroix, because he probably wasn't going to be there. I think Texas is more defensible, perhaps, than Minnesota for what they did at the deadline. But the bottom line is there's room for a mediocre team to make the postseason in the AL this year. The Rangers, the Angels, both live to be that mediocre squad. And anyone who gets hot between now and September, they can run away with the thing. If anyone's capable of getting hot, we are talking about a bunch of mediocre baseball teams.
Up next, handicapper Marc Lawrence in the deep dive, stats, trends, database, and changing with the times and the play of the day. Coming up on SportsBet, betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Welcome back to SportsBet. Teddy Covers here, and I'm joined right now for a deep dive with Marc Lawrence from Playbook.com.
Mark, my pleasure. Nice to be with you, and nice to be with you at the conference.
Sure, it's a lot of fun down here in San Jose, Costa Rica. We're putting a bunch of deep dives in the bag right here, right now. We've got everybody in the same room. And Mark, I really wanted to sit down with you because you are genuinely an industry legend.
Well, I appreciate that. What you really mean to say is I've outlasted a lot of people.
You've outlived everybody.
Yes,
so far. So far, so good in that regard. But how did you get started in this business? You've been around since, what, the 1970s?
Yeah, it was 1975, as I mentioned here. The Vietnam War was still going on, if you could believe that. Tiger Woods was born that year. It's been that long. But basically what I did was in high school, love math, love sports, love music, love history. So it was just easy to get into sports, and I read the Gold Sheet when I was in school. All the time I read the Gold Sheet. So when I got out of school, my next move was to get into sports handicapping.
So how'd you do it? What was your, I mean, here you are, you've been reading the Gold Sheet, and I know that a lot of guys from that era look at the Gold Sheet as the gold standard. That got people interested in beating the books at a professional type level.
Correct.
So what did you do to start doing that?
Well, what I did basically was, as a handicapper, I knew I needed to learn how to handicap. So went through a lot of tough stages, not applying things properly. Eventually got a good feel and a good handle on handicapping. I said, you know something? I can do this for a living. So what I decided to do was I contacted Football News, and I took out a back page ad in the Football News. And handwritten ad, if you believe this, handwritten ad, and I thought they would at least typeset it. They didn't. They put the whole handwritten ad as the back page.
How did it look? Did it work?
Well, it worked, okay? It didn't look good, but it worked, okay? So hence, then all of a sudden I was a handicapper, professional handicapper. Well, I did that for about 8 years, and then I crossed paths with Dave Malinsky, okay?
Sure.
And Dave and I, Dave, a great writer, as you know, great handicapper, great writer, and we decided, let's get a reach out there. So we decided we're going to put the playbook together. So that's what we did. We launched Playbook about 1985. We worked together with that, and it's gone forward since then.
Well, Playbook now is what, the top-selling prediction magazine that's out there, isn't it?
Well, it is. Yeah, in Las Vegas, for sure it is. It's college and pro, which is really, really nice. In fact, we just did our 25th anniversary edition this year.
Sure, and I was yelling at you before when I saw the price on the cover. You're like $11.99. I'm like, shut up, that's worth $20.
Well, you know that, I know that, but you still have to sell it at Barnes & Noble, at Walmart, so that you have a buying public out there too.
So talk about the process as a handicapper from where you were in 1975 to where you were in 1985 to where you are today. How have you been able to morph in a betting marketplace that's so different now from where it was what, 42 years ago?
Exactly, 42 years. You change with the times is what you do. You grow, you learn, you change with the times. As I talked here at the conference when I first started it, we had Bob Martin as the odds maker in Las Vegas. We found out how he set those lines. We moved forward. All of a sudden, then the internet came out. Okay, the internet was good news, bad news, if you will. Good news from the sense that, hey, man, we can gather a lot of good information here. Bad news, so too can everybody. You know? So, you know, whatever you thought you had something on, the whole world knew about. So you go from that to the internet. Now you go into, as we talked at the conference here, now everything is about algorithms and databases and things like that. But I was fortunate enough, I have my own database, and I have a database that I rely on heavily to do all my handicapping with.
Sure, and when you're talking about the database, and this is something that we've talked about with a number of guys, how do you create a database that's going to spit out accurate predictions or algorithms or anything like that? It's easy enough to put in numbers and have expected predictions, but how do you take advantage of this database that's going to actually make you money or make your clients money?
Well, the first thing the database doesn't do is make predictions, okay? What the important thing to remember is a database is, you're like the pilot of an airplane, okay? And the database is going to work as well as you can fly a plane. Whatever questions you ask, it's going to give you those answers. You ask rotten questions, you're going to get rotten answers. You ask good questions, you're going to get good answers, okay? So what I've learned to do is I've learned to learn what questions it is I need to ask of this database. What are situations? What happens to a team in the National Football League that loses a game by 40 points? You know, go in there as a starting point, get the answer, and then I can start asking other questions within that. So I use that database to do a lot of querying with.
Sure, and I know that you still sell the black books?
Still sell the black books?
Exactly. The black books I always found to be very, very useful when it came to long-term trends that aren't team-specific. And talk about the difference between a team-specific trend and a broader league trend. And that's something that, you know, or a trend isn't even necessarily the right word for these, where you have situations that are consistently profitable over the course of time.
It's a great question because the magazine is largely about trends. I write in the newsletter about trends, but trends are trends. All they are is random. They pertain to one team, okay? What I love to handicap with systems and angles, they pertain to all teams. So if I'm looking at what happens to the Philadelphia Eagles when they lose by 40 points, that's a trend. What does the NFL teams do when they lose by 40 or more points? That can become an angle, okay? Because we can count on every team in the league. We can have an expectancy of what to expect from all teams in the league as opposed to just the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Philadelphia Eagles is a trend, most likely occurred because of the quarterback that was there at the time, the coach that was there at the time, personnel changes, so it becomes a trend.
So let's do this. One really good angle for folks out there to bet here in 2017.
For the 2017, well, a really good angle that has stood the test of time is one that is becoming very popular, and don't want to jump on the bandwagon, but the fact that Super Bowl losers really struggle on the road the next year, especially non-division games. The numbers are horrific; they're off the charts. Okay, and so why you ask? You know, what happens to those football teams? One, they're despondent. Two, they're targeted. They're a team that may be surprised to make it to the Super Bowl and couldn't do that. So now all of a sudden you got a Super Bowl loser that finds themselves favored on the road in a non-division game. Hold me back.
Marc Lawrence, thank you so much for joining us right here on SportsBit Betting Insight today.
Excellent work, Teddy and Marc Lawrence. Part 2 will be tomorrow, and then Ed Grainy to preview Mayweather and McGregor. He'll be there Saturday at the fight here in Las Vegas. All right, money time, play of the day. Back to the Rangers and the Angels, betting number 965. Come on, skates can't be $1.45, $1.50. That's lunacy. Let's take plus $1.30. See where you, careful where you shop, but Bet Online will take the plus 131 with Hamels on the road. Good price on the dog. That is the play of the day. All right, we made it. We got 5 college football games Saturday and the big fight coming up. And week 3, the only games that matter in the preseason with dress rehearsal. A loaded week here on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com. Thanks for watching.